I want to jump back a little bit too, Jared. Could I ask, I know you're an OG in dropshipping, like early Shopify days and everything else. What led you to this point? I always find this journey fascinating. And people, I would love for them to hear it. Like, did you start with Shopify? Did you start with online stuff? And why did you why did all of those choices culminate to Zendrop?
Yeah, I actually got into dropshipping without knowing that I was dropshipping.
I had a very different path, but I basically tried a million other things and then decided to I dropped out of school and then eventually decided to go back to school. I was sitting in a political science class and I was like, I just can't do this anymore.
Jared, you got to fill in the gap from you're on your mom's couch. She's making you chicken noodle soup or macaroni and cheese. I don't know yet. And now to hooking up with Brad, what happened in that intro?
Welcome to ClickFunnels Radio, the podcast that brings you the latest strategies, insights, and success stories from online marketers just like you who utilize funnels to grow their business. Our mission is simple: to help you unleash the true potential of your online business by harnessing the power of funnels. Join us every week as we bring you exclusive interviews and thought-provoking discussions that will revolutionize the way you approach online marketing. Here are your hosts, Chris Cameron and Ben Harris.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of ClickFunnels Radio. We've got, I think for the first time, we've done an interview with amazing people that we've now just recently officially partnered with, that's live and that publicly known about. Chris, I know we've been waiting on this for quite some time and even talking about it internally for months, but how excited have you been to see this be released and everyone talk about it?
Well, this is really, really cool too. Plus, it's not often that we get interviewed two people. You got two people that are interviewing two people. So if it gets a little crowded, sorry about that. We'll just talk over each other. No, we had to reschedule this a couple times and this just dropped, this partnership, with ClickFunnels. I am over the moon about this because so many people, they have a lot of excuses as to why they cannot, do business. And a lot of them is why I don't have a product or don't have a service. And this completely obliterates any of those concerns. But we can get into all that. Let's go ahead and introduce them.
Happy to welcome the CEO and co-founder of Zendrop, Jared Goetz, and the COO Brad Loeffler of Zendrop to the show. Guys, what's going on?
Thank you for having us on, guys. We're also extremely pleased with this partnership, excited to empower more people to sell products online with ClickFunnels and Zendrop.
That's awesome. And Jared, as a co-founder, when did you and Brad connect? Brad, did you come on? You said you're part of the founding team of Zendrop, but were you part of the ideation? How did you two meet?
Yeah, so actually, we grew up together. We went to middle school and high school together. Have been friends for a really long time.
Oh, that's awesome.
And reconnected when Jared was on his journey in e-commerce and started an info business called Ecom Hacks. And we had this huge community of students taking our course, and a lot of them were having success, but we were sending them to fulfillment sources like AliExpress and Oberlo. And we had this great solution in China that we were using to fulfill our dropshipping stores because we were still running a lot of dropshipping stores and e-commerce brands. And we thought, why don't we just build a tool to give people the access to a much better fulfillment solution? And that's how the idea of Zendrop came about. And since then, we've added lots of different suppliers and more supply chain to it, but that was basically the premise.
Now, I want to jump back a little bit too, Jared. Could I ask, I know you're an OG in dropshipping, early Shopify days and everything else. What led you to this point? I always find this journey fascinating. And people, I would love for them to hear it. Did you start with Shopify? Did you start with online stuff? And why did you why did all of those choices culminate to Zendrop?
Yeah, I actually got into dropshipping without knowing that I was dropshipping. I had an early career in the entertainment space. I used to throw a show called Electric Flurry. It was the world's largest foam party, and we did it at colleges all across the U.S.
No way.
I did really well when I was in my early 20s, and then got my butt beat down, lost everything on a show, ended up getting sued. I went into I hit rock bottom. I had to move back in with my mom. I grew up a single mom, only child. I moved back in, sleep on the couch. It's
hold on, we got to stop there too, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through this cycle, right? Where and either they give up or they thrive. How old are you and you're moving back in with your mom?
So I had my first bout of success when I was about 21. I lost everything when I was 22, 23, and I ended up moving back with my mom at 23, which was really painful, right? I thought I was this successful guy, and here I am sleeping on my mom's couch. It was tough.
Wow, this is wild, because I know that a lot of people experience this, and I think you're fortunate. Would you look back and say, I'm glad that happened now? I mean, 22, 23, you're glad that you had that experience of like knowing what it was to fail?
Yeah, I mean, I've had many failures up until today. I still have failures. I mean, I think life is a journey of many different experiences, and I don't really label them as failures and successes. They're just different outcomes and experiences. So I'm very grateful for everything that's happened up until this moment, and I'm looking forward to many more failures and successes in the future. That's
a true entrepreneurial spirit. Like, people who are entrepreneurs, like, it doesn't matter how many times they fail. Russell, anybody. Are you similar, Brad? Have you kind of gone that same path, or were you working in the corporate world before you and Jared kind of hooked up?
So I had a very different path, but I basically tried a million other things, and then decided to I dropped out of school and then eventually decided to go back to school. And I just basically Googled, like, how do you make the most money with a college degree? And the first thing that popped up was finance. So I went back to community school and then went to study finance at a community school in New York, Baruch College. And like 3 weeks in, I was sitting in like a political science class, and I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I was like, there's so much, there's so many things to do just for the sake of doing them for a college degree. And I was like already kind of like past the point of I just couldn't do it anymore. And that was about the time where me and Jared reconnected, like, professionally. And I just basically jumped ship on college and went all in on this.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. So now what we got to do, Jared, you got to fill in the gap from you're on your mom's couch. She's making you chicken noodle soup or macaroni and cheese. I don't know again. And now to hooking up with Brad, like, what happened in that interim?
Yeah. So I was in a very anxious state, right? I was like, oh, I'm this, people on Facebook back then thought, I was this kid from high school. I was doing really well. My reality was I had $0 in my bank account, negative, and I'm on my mom's couch, and I'm very stressed every day. And I ended up reading a book called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And it opened my mind to, like, maybe I got to just be a little easier on myself. I got to start getting up earlier, taking more time to reflect, and, kind of let go. And, I'd start getting up, going on early morning walks and, sitting by the water and just trying to let go of my situation. And then the universe provided me with a new opportunity. I got an email from a startup that had just raised $10 million called Yik Yak. I'm sure a lot of listeners remember Yik Yak. If you're around our age, I'm 33, me and Brad are 33, or you're a little bit younger, it was the fastest growing startup of 2014. They reached out and they said, hey, we just raised this money. We want to break into the college market. We want to sponsor your shows. And I was like, well, I'm in this different mindset right now. I don't think that's the best use of your money. I think you guys can grow the app a lot faster by doing this, that, and the other thing. And long story short, I ended up joining their team as one of the first employees. And while I was at Yik Yak, I had, started getting a reputation for being pretty good at marketing between my shows and now running the marketing at Yik Yak. A friend of mine who went to the Canton Fair in China called me all excited. He was like, I found this crazy product. I want to figure out how to sell it. And I was like, okay, what is it? And he's like, well, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to send you one because you're not going to believe me. And I was like, okay. And about 2 weeks later, I was living in Lake Havasu at the time because we were doing a spring break sponsorship. So I'm living at spring break, living my best life, 24 years old, having all this fun. And I get a big box in the mail and I open it up and it was a hoverboard. But it was before anyone had ever seen hoverboards. So I'm looking at this alien object, like, there's no way you could actually ride this thing. And I start, using it. I'm riding it around this spring break event, and everyone's necks are breaking looking at me. What is this thing? Where do I get it? How much is it? And so I literally started going to Starbucks at 7 a.m, and I opened a Shopify store. I took photos of it on my phone. I found a supplier in China that can ship them direct to the customer. And every time someone asked me, I'd give them a business card. And they'd say, where do you get that thing? Oh, you can get it right here. And next thing you know, I'm making like 1, 2, 3 sales a week. I'm making $1,000 profit on every sale. And I started getting obsessed with how do I sell 1,000 hoverboards and make $1 million? And so I had a friend of mine who was a professional snowboarder. He had about 40,000 followers on Instagram. I was like, hey, maybe if he posts about it, someone will buy one. And he posted, we made like 10 sales. And then I just went all in on influencer marketing after that. I went out to LA. I met all these kids that had 10, 15, 20 million followers. They, literally overnight, we did like $250,000 in sales. And it was a short-lived dream though, because I didn't have a patent on it. And actually Mark Cuban was buying the patent on the hoverboard, and he called me personally. So I spoke with Mark Cuban. I'm like this young guy who's like an idol of mine. And he's like, I love the brand you've built, but you got to stop selling these Chinese knockoff hoverboards. I was like, I'm willing to partner with you, but you got to wait for me to get the patent. And so I ended up shutting down the business after about 2 months and, taking the risk on waiting for Mark Cuban. That didn't end up working out, but it propelled me into e-commerce, right? I learned all this stuff. I ended up leaving my job at Yik Yak, going to the Canton Fair in China myself, finding more viral products. And, and I started importing different products. One of the big ones were the inflatable loungers. You wave them through the air and they fill up and you can land on them. And I was selling these products everywhere on Amazon, on eBay, to major retailers. I was at trade shows. We had a warehouse, and it was just so much work. Every time we'd make money, I'd have to send it to China, wait for my inventory to come in. Hopefully the product was good. And then one day after a trade show, I was exhausted. I was talking to people for 3 days, and I had a flight the next morning to go back home. I was about to go to sleep. It was like midnight, and I got an email from a marketer that said how to sell products without ever seeing or touching them. And I was like, I'm going to open this email. And I watched a webinar about dropshipping. And little did I know, I was already dropshipping hoverboards originally, but I did not know what it was called. And I didn't realize you can actually dropship anything. You just go to AliExpress and you find a supplier. So I literally was so excited. I got up the next morning, went to the airport, and I built my first dropshipping store. And I added products to it, started running ads. And that store scaled from 0 to $2 million in 60 days. So it was a rocket ship. It went to like $50,000 days in its 5th day just by running ads with these products. And that's when I fell in love with the model.
Ads that you were running, like what was the secret there? Like that's killer.
Yeah, I think I got pretty lucky. Like my first couple ads worked. A lot of people, it takes a bunch of tries. But after that, I was hooked. I'm like, well, I'm going to start testing 100 products a week. Like, I built the infrastructure. I had a team that would add the products to the store, a team that would run the ads, a customer support team. And it almost seemed too good to be true because I was printing $25,000 in profit every day, doing nothing. It felt like. And it was too good to be true because I had a supplier in China that totally screwed me over. And they sent out 7,000 fake tracking codes to my customers and never sent the product away. And so that's when I was like, this business model is amazing, but fulfillment sucks. And long story short, I started learning a little bit about, the info space, the ClickFunnels community, and the Facebook group, watching people do these things. And I was like, let me build a course because I am really good at this. And, we started selling courses, coaching, masterminds. And that's when Brad and I reconnected. Early on when I had started this info business and we started working together, and we realized like, hey, there's a lot more to this than the info stuff. Like, what if we build Zendrop? And it was, it was a very challenging thing to do, but very rewarding as well.
That's amazing. Like, everybody remembers, at least I do. I remember all these hoverboards, like just showing up out of nowhere, like everybody riding those. It's amazing that was really kind of the launch pad for you. Brad, what was it that obviously you knew Jared in the past, right? You guys grew up together and all this, but what made you go, okay, man, like I hear what you're saying and I'm in? What made you just say, let's go for it?
Yeah, I think intuitively, like the business model just spoke to me as like, this is something that is sort of infinitely scalable and seems like something that a lot of people can get behind and a lot of people can do. And the fact that, actually the dropshipping model really spoke to me at first, because I also was, at a point in my life where like, I didn't have much cash. I was trying to figure something out, and the dropshipping business model is like, Jared was like, we were at dinner and I was talking to him like, what are you doing right now? He's like, he's buying all this stuff and he's going, like, I see his Instagram and he's like doing all this crazy stuff. And he's like, I'm doing e-commerce and you could do it with drop shipping. And I just clicked for me, like, you could actually start a business with no money, which is like, it totally eliminates the barrier to entry for people, which is another reason why ClickFunnels is so great, right? Because digital products, like, you don't need to invest a ton of money or any money at all into your product, right? But traditionally, to start an e-commerce brand or to start anything, a brick and mortar store, anything with physical goods, you need either to take out a loan or you need a bunch of cash to tie up and get started, right? So I think what initially spoke to me was, I was like, I'm going to try dropshipping. I'm going to try e-com because I could do it right now. And I don't need any cash to get started. I just need to put a little bit of time and energy into creating a storefront and I could start getting traffic to it. So that was what originally really hooked me. And then I realized like, I'm not the only one here, right? Like a ton of people want to do this. And Jared's launching this info product to teach people how to do this. And it just felt right. It just felt like something that could really take off.
Jared, same question to you, with reconnecting with Brad, what struck you as, I want this guy on my, Avengers squad. What I know, again, known him for a while, but what stuck out?
Yeah, I mean, we were always like best of friends growing up and share a lot of similar values. And I was onto something that was working really well, and I was trying to figure out what to do. And it's always fun to work with people that and like a lot. It's also very challenging when you have a friendship to start some kind of business relationship with. But I had moved I was in LA with my then girlfriend, now wife, and we had moved to Florida. We were living in Boca Raton. And then, I was just like, it would be a lot of fun to work together. And we started working together, and Brad really like rolled up his sleeves and did the stuff that people don't want to do, and really cared about the customer's experience at a level that you can't really hire people to care about at that level. And, fix things, put out fires, like really put his heart and soul into things. And one thing led to another. And, we really grew the company into what it is together.
That's awesome. I've had plenty of like, small little businesses or whatever and partnerships that, work out for a little while and then they don't. And when you find that, I'm going way old school, like, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice scenario, right? That works, diving into that and making it work, Dave Woodward, Russell Brunson, that type of thing. Like it's magic. So, okay. So you guys have done that. What led you to, wait a minute, this is a perfect match for ClickFunnels. How did that all happen? Then I want to get into like how this works.
Yeah. Well, for the longest time, we were using ClickFunnels for the education business, for our landing pages. We're very close with the Morrison brothers, who are very involved with the ClickFunnels community. And, there's not many communities of people that just want to get after it and do something and take risks and try things. But, I went to Funnel Hacking Live probably 6 years ago at this point, and it was just an incredible group of people that were hungry.
Which one was your first one? I'm curious.
It was in Orlando.
Orlando?
Yeah, in Orlando.
Yeah.
And I was
That's
fascinated by how many people spent the time and money to travel to this event. And, when we look at the online entrepreneur space, selling physical products is a great thing to do. I mean, there's people that are scrolling on their phones, they see something, they want to buy it. And ClickFunnels wasn't really at a point where people were able to do that with ease. So we had I'd reached out. I think I got connected with Todd, and then we were talking like 2 years ago, and then we were talking. Yeah. We've been talking for literally years, and the timing lined up, and it was just something that, our team evolved from, we were probably like 20 or 30 people at the time. Now we're almost 200 people. We have the tech resources now, and actually doing technical integrations between companies, bootstrap software companies, is very challenging. But we both had sophisticated development teams that are able to work together and get this thing done.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you mentioned, been talking for years, get this thing done. For somebody who by chance is not familiar with really what you're referring to, unpack what this partnership entails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah. So essentially you could always use ClickFunnels to create easy landing pages, right? It's very simple to use, very easy to use, very modular. You can move things around very easily. It's basically no code page building, right? Very simple to use. With ClickFunnels 2.0, they're launching e-commerce, and Zendrop is essentially the back end for ClickFunnels 2.0 e-commerce or physical fulfillment. So if you've never used Zendrop before, you can create a Zendrop account in about 10 seconds. And then once you're in, you can search our huge catalog of products for anything that you want to sell. You could add it to your store, your ClickFunnels workspace, and then you can start selling that product without ever buying inventory for it. And we will ship the orders that come in straight to your customers. If you can't find something that you want to sell on Zendrop, we can also source products for you. So if you say, hey, I want to, I really want to sell headphones like these, right? We can go and source that for you and say, okay, these headphones are going to be $8 to ship to your customer all in. Then you'll add that to your store and start selling it. So again, if you can't find something, we can also source it. And so basically that's our entire operation in China. That is the dropshipping arm of the business, and that's where we're able to source things from. We're also expanding our supply chain to also have more US suppliers, suppliers in Europe, and also print on demand. So you'll be able to, create it's a really cool way to kind of ride the trends of e-commerce, right? If you want to create something that's happening that's viral in the news, and you want to create a t-shirt or a hoodie or something like that around that, run ads to it, great way to kind of ride the trends and be able to use that to your advantage. If you have a community and you want to sell merchandise on your ClickFunnels workspace, you can easily now create merchandise and not have to hold it in a warehouse somewhere, print it, buy 1,000 units of each size and put it in a warehouse and pay a warehouse manager or a 3PL. So it cuts out all of that headache while giving you the flexibility to sell anything you want to anyone, anywhere.
Yeah, I just saw as an idea for people, right? Like riding the trends. I just saw a post, and it was a Trump shot glass after he got shot at, and it was literally a picture of him on a shot glass. And you can make that product in a second, and then reach out to a conservative page on Instagram and pay them $200 to post it, and go generate, thousands of dollars or however many dollars, maybe zero, but maybe thousands of dollars, depending on how the performance goes, in a split second. So the cool thing is you can go from ideation to reality with little to no money and little to no time.
Yeah, and I think that's really the point, is that's what Zendrop enables entrepreneurs and people who want to get started, or even that people that have a business that want to take something that's an idea and go test it and be able to do it in seconds, right? Not I have this idea, now I got to reach out to someone in China or a supplier in the US, and I have to get samples and I have to get inventory and I have to warehouse it. You're months down the road at that point, right? From a simple idea that you want to test. But this, what Zendrop enables you to do is really to test things quickly without any commitment in time or money.
That's amazing. And even from a ClickFunnels user standpoint, a big piece of feedback is, I'm not ready, right? I'm going to leave my account because I don't have an idea yet, or it's going to take me too long to launch a course. One, I come from an e-commerce background, but my opinions are biased. I think that you're more likely to get started selling. You're more likely to get sales quicker if you're selling chapstick. You know what I mean? If you're just starting out, announcing that you're starting a business, posting about it, friends, family, whatever you guys kind of teach. I feel like this journey to your first dollar is quicker.
Well, and it's not only quicker, but it's more versatile, right? If you're going to sell a course, you spend a lot of time creating it, and you have that one thing you can sell. And it's great. You build a community, and there's no money, there's no cost of goods. But with physical products, you can say, I don't know what I'm going to sell, but I'm going to run ads to these 20 products, and whatever's getting the cheapest cost per click, I'm going to spend more time and energy on. And then whatever's getting the best cost per acquisition and the biggest profit margin, I'm going to go spend even more money on. So you can test everything. That's the cool thing about it, I think.
Yeah,
100%.
Another cool aspect of Zendrop is that we're not just a platform that people use to test. We support businesses through every stage of the journey, right? So if you start to test something on Zendrop and it works really well, you can go from the test and ideation phase to the scaling with dropshipping fulfillment phase to the, hey, I want to start to slap my label on this. I want to private label this product. Oh, actually, I want to private label this product, and I want to get custom packaging and custom inserts made for this. And I still want to drop ship it. I still want to ship it all from China. Cool. And then all the way to, hey, I want to start bringing this over to the US, get like super, super fast shipping times for my US customers, and still be able to ship all around the world from your warehouse in China. Like, we support brands that are all the way to that kind of end of the spectrum, where they're creating custom products, getting custom molds from factories, doing custom packaging, private labeling, custom inserts, and we're doing all their freight forwarding to US warehouses and shipping product from the US like super fast in like 2 days to the US customers, and shipping globally through our warehouse in China, which is a lot more cost efficient, a lot faster.
So this sounds super sexy, super easy. But if I was going to go and I had an idea for something sourced out of China and I want to use Zendrop, but I do want to like scale or do exactly what you're talking about, Brad, do you guys have, like, for people who are, I don't know, maybe they're going to do larger scale or something, do you guys have people like customer service reps or something? Do you get on the phone with people? How does that part work?
Yeah, so we have an awesome customer success team who's available 24/7, 365 on live chat.
Way.
They answer within 30 seconds. They're all super helpful, really, really well trained, great people, amazing people. And they service, the majority of our users, right? And then the people that are kind of at that next level that do really high volume, they get a dedicated account manager. So if we see that you come on Zendrop and you're doing, X amount of orders per day, anything remotely considered, sort of high volume, hey, this is going to be a little bit more complex. So this person's not just starting out. They get assigned a dedicated account manager and a dedicated sales rep who's boots on the ground in China. This is a person that lives in China. They work in our Chinese office, and they are the ones that are contacting manufacturers, sourcing products for you, doing all the work, boots on the ground in China. So you get kind of like that person that's in China, and you also get kind of like a liaison who's like your account manager. And we use kind of whatever communication platform works best for you. Typically, most of our clients use like Slack or WhatsApp, but it's literally just like a WhatsApp chat where you're getting all of your support from our team, and then our team in China.
That's massive,
right? That's awesome. From an e-commerce perspective, kind of even switching gears a little bit and kind of even some hot seat stuff, putting you guys on the spot here. Hopefully you're okay with this. Jared, you can't say hoverboards. We've already talked about it. Your favorite product you've sold on the internet?
I sold a talking hamster. It was
like a Billy Bass thing. What do you mean?
Yeah, it was like a stuffed hamster.
Furby?
Yeah.
Kinda. You talk to it and it would repeat back the word that you'd say. And to be honest, I thought it was like the stupidest thing in the world. But when I ran ads to it and people started buying it, I started making more funny creatives, and we sold over 100,000 talking hamsters.
Holy cow.
It was just, and I remember actually one time, I was testing it was like a makeup mirror. It had like lights on it. And I accidentally uploaded the wrong file to my ads. It was supposed to be a 30-second video, but I uploaded a 1-second video. And for whatever reason, it was generating super cheap purchases. So I scaled this makeup mirror with a 1-second video. And it just goes to show you can sell anything, and you could throw a bunch of things and see what sticks. But I think the talking hamster was my favorite just because it was such a ridiculous product and I made a lot of money doing it.
So I think this is so interesting because I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, business owners, they get this idea, well, like, okay, I like sporting goods or I like automotive or health and beauty or something like this. And so they're like, I'm going to sell this because I think it's a really good idea. Is that a good way to start, or are you just better to go and do exactly what you're saying? And I think I might know the answer. And everything's data driven. Where would you say somebody starts? They go something after they like or hobby, or just find something and just test?
Definitely number two.
Okay.
Like I was a really good drop shipper and we were testing. I basically tested as many products as I could. And there's many ways to do product research. You can, like when you start getting ads on Facebook or Instagram, like start clicking on them, right? And you start to tell the algorithm that you're an impulse buyer and it serves you more ads. And literally I would have a spreadsheet, and every time I would see a product online that had like lots of likes, comments, views on their ad, I'd say, all right, we'll test that. And I also had a team that was just scouring all different databases, and we tested everything. I mean, it has nothing to do with what you like, because the truth of it is that realistically, it's going to be like 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 products that you test that are going to get good results. And so you have to leave your biases aside. And also another thing that I think is useful advice is like many people who might be on the train of, oh, like I love golf, I'm going to sell golf products. They also tend to be the people that are like, all right, I'm going to start selling a product online. Let me perfect my ads. Let me perfect my landing page. Let me make everything perfect. And then I'll start running ads. And it takes them a lot of time and energy, and then it doesn't work. And then they do another one and it's a lot of time and energy and it doesn't work. And they give up. I would say spend the least amount of time and energy on creating your landing page and your ads, and just test as many things as you could. Look at the data, see what's getting you the best data, cost per click, cost per acquisition, whatever data you're looking at, and then spend your time and energy on then perfecting that one thing that's working. So start broad, look for good data, and then focus in on what's working.
Yeah. And to Jared's point, like, 1 out of every 10 or 1 out of every 20 are going to be a winner, right? If we just take a look at that math, it's not just like picking the winning product, right? A winning product is a combination of, well, it has to be profitable in the front end, right? Or you're not going to keep spending money. Maybe you have a back end to your business, different discussion, right? But that winning product is a formula, right? It's the product, it's the ad creative, it's the ad copy, it's who your it's what the targeting is, right? It's your landing page conversion rate, it's your price point, it's all these things rolled up into one. So you just got to take the most shots on goal that you can, because even if you pick the best product or what you think is the best product, like there's so many variables that testing as much as you can is going to get you there much faster versus like picking the niche that you're into. And like fundamentally, if you scale a business, like it doesn't matter what you're in, right? You're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to be hiring people, persuading people, training people. And it's like fundamentally the same job at the end of the day. And also like if you start to do something and it's like not really working that well, and you're in this, like, it's like you might like wind up not even liking the thing that you like anymore, because it's like you turned it into a job, right?
Actually, I also have a really good example of what Brad's saying. I used to, when I was importing products from China, I was selling the inflatable loungers, and they were really high quality, and it cost me a lot more to import them and warehouse them. And we were selling them at a premium price. It was like $80 for one of them. And I found a supplier that can get them shipped to my customers. It would cost me $10. So I was like, I'm going to try to sell them for $35 and see what happens instead of $80. When I was selling them for $80, it would cost me between $40 and $50 to acquire a customer. And then my profit margins after, all the different factors of the business, the customer support, the returns, et cetera, I had small profit margins. And since I was buying inventory, I had to keep replenishing my inventory with my cash, so I couldn't spend as much on ads. And I couldn't sell more than a certain amount or I'd run out of inventory. When I started drop shipping them and selling them for $35, my cost per acquisition was only $5. So it went from $40 to $50 down to $5. And I would acquire a customer for a $35 product, but most of them would buy 2 or more. So my average cart value was like $50 to $60. It only cost me $5 to acquire the customer. My profit margin was much bigger, and I didn't have to reinvest in inventory. So instead of capping myself at 150 sales a day, I can go make 2,000 sales a day. So I made exponentially more money selling the product at a lower price point, but I wouldn't have done that if I didn't have the ability to drop ship them and have kind of less costs up front. So it's just a good example of the different variables that affect your business.
Yeah, and then you're not warehousing it or anything else. We throw on this word test, right? But I want to dive in a little bit deeper about what it means to test and maybe the easiest way to test. And I think ClickFunnels is probably a big part of that. Like when you're talking about click-through rates and like how many people are visiting the page, conversion, everything else. For somebody who's new, I'm curious, like a very easy tactic to do to test, and then how much money and time should they allow maybe in the test? Do either one of you guys want to field that?
Yeah, I can kick it off. I'm sure Brad has some other perspectives as well, but I think there's many different methods to testing. I'd say at the highest level, it should be a product thing, right? So you want to test products. And then when you're testing products, you want to kind of, throw it out to as many different kind of people as you could to see what's happening. So I like to do some kind of broad targeting. So let me back up for a second. So let's say you're testing 10 products. Each product, you want to test as many creatives as you in reality could test. But imagine you have 3 creatives per product. You have 1 video, 1 photo, and 1 maybe meme or kind of viral piece of content. And it depends on the product too, right? If it's a beauty product, you might want to show the outcome of someone being more beautiful. If it's a fun product like a talking hamster, it might be a funny video or an ad. So you want to test as many products as you could, as many creatives as you could, and to as broad of an audience as you could. So maybe, for each product, you have 3 creatives and you're spending $10 a day on each creatives to a broad audience, right? You see, all right, maybe the meme ad is doing the best. So then you're going to go ahead and create more of these types of meme ads. And you'll get data now in your Facebook ad portal. Okay, maybe it's females in their 40s to 50s that are clicking this the most. Then you want to start different targeting. So you want to start as broad as you could and cast your widest net as you could, and then start narrowing down based on the data.
Yeah. Would you give a certain like budget? All right. Hey, you want to start with 1 product. You want to start with 3 products. Budget. Then how much time do you give? I think to do this, because it's easy to say we're going to start with no money, but there is an ad component. What would you say is a good budget and time?
Yeah, I think the more you could spend, the faster you'll find success. But there are ways to do it with no budget through organic content on TikTok, through influencers, through, running affiliate offers, right? There's many ways you can do it with no money. But the more you can spend, the faster you'll find that winning, combination of product, price point, creative, landing page, etc. But my rule of thumb was always to test each product with about $100. And then
really as little as $100.
Yeah, $100. And then I would be able to see, all right, maybe this got no sales, but it had 6 add to carts. If 3 of those people converted, I would have been profitable. All right. How didn't it convert? Well, maybe it was the price point. Maybe it was the landing page image. Maybe it was the copy. So you can get enough data to see if you have a chance of being successful with spending $100 on a product, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you spend $500 testing, you're going to get more data. But, at a certain point, you get diminishing returns on the data, right? You just want to tell yourself a story. Is it possible that I can get people to buy this and be profitable after my cost of goods and my ads? Well, you could piece that stuff together. Maybe you're getting really cheap cost per clicks, but no one's adding it to cart. Well, that's probably a price point issue. Maybe you're getting lots of add to carts, but no purchases. Well, maybe the person wasn't really convinced that they need the product, or maybe they were finding it cheaper elsewhere. Maybe they went and shopped around. The other thing to note is that most purchases you're going to get when you're drop shipping, they're impulse buys. So you don't always have to be competitive on pricing. Maybe it's cheaper on Amazon. It doesn't really matter because 80% of people aren't going to go look for it somewhere else. They're just going to buy it right then and there. But if you notice a lot of people are adding to cart and then not buying, maybe people are shopping around. So maybe it's also a price point issue.
That's interesting.
You're painting a picture, really. You're like a detective. You're looking at data, you're trying to come to conclusions. But at the end of the day, you also have to know you don't know everything. So you just have to try things. And then the cool thing is eventually something will work, and eventually something will work better than you could have expected it to work. And then you're going to raise your standards, and it's going to give you the motivation to keep trying more things. And that's when, the business really takes off.
Have you found that you just now kind of can tell by a hunch? Usually you've got enough experience. You can look at a product in a certain, area or whatever and go, I've got a good hunch that this one's going to work out, and maybe pour more fuel to the fire up front.
I mean, here's the thing. All four of us can be testing the exact same product with the exact same creative, with the exact same targeting, with the exact same website, landing page, price point, everything exactly uniform. And it might work for one of us because there's so many variables when you're running ads, and ad accounts. I don't know what Facebook's algorithm really is, or how it works, or how TikTok's algorithm works. So yes, I gotta have a hunch. And my hunch is typically based on, is the product solving problem? Is it fun? Are other people, getting lots of clicks, views, comments on their ads? But at the end of the day, you can't be like, there's no way to know. You have to test.
Data.
Right.
Yeah. I would say if there's one variable that makes it like a kind of like, oh, this could really have some legs, is like how many people are going to see this and tell someone else about it, right? Because if like Jared's hoverboards, for example, right? Like everyone that saw one of those hoverboards, like they told 20 people about it, right? Like that's why they sold so well. And Jared was doing a little bit different marketing than running a Facebook ad, right? But in that same way, like if one person that sees each impression on Facebook is going to tell 5 people about it because it's such a cool, viral, fun thing, your ad cost just went down by 80%, right? Because you're getting more impressions on it just by people. Facebook isn't going to tell you that in the data, right? But people are telling other people about it. People are sharing it, things of that nature. So like that kind of like, something that is really fun, really cool, really useful, like a product that solves a real problem, or it's funny, or something to that effect, like your ad costs are going to go way down because it's such a cool product. People are going to talk about it.
And it's like, on that note, you're probably not going to do well selling a necessity like toilet paper or phone chargers unless your toilet paper is blue, or your phone charger, charges your phone 4 times faster and there's a wow factor.
Or it's like a prank toilet paper, right?
Yeah, like something you can't unravel. It's got to be, you got to imagine your customer, if you're running ads, especially on social media, is probably sitting there scrolling mindlessly and their dopamine is very depleted. You need something that gets them excited enough to click it and buy it right then and there. So it's the fun stuff. It's the things that they talk about with their friends, like Brad said, that's going to do well with these impulsive buys. And that doesn't mean you can't also sell necessities, but on your front end, what you're driving traffic with needs to be exciting. If you're selling, shoes that make you 4 inches taller, you could include the socks, but you probably can't sell the socks and then include the shoes, right? So that's how I think about it.
And I think a lot of people also tend to forget about the back end of their business, right? Like it's a purely front end game. Like I need to be profitable on the front end. But I feel like a lot of people are really, really close and they're just neglecting like 80% of
that's huge. That's a huge point.
Like, the lever that they have, right? Because like if you're like very close to breaking even on a product, right? And you have no back end, like you're actually crushing it. You just need to make a few tweaks on upsells, emails, SMS campaigns, retargeting, like just like those simple things. And your LTV will double or triple, or your AOV or whatever you want to call it, right? Like, and you'll be printing money. But a lot of people just kind of like forget about that. It's like, it's just, I need to drive profitable front end traffic. And like, it's like the most obvious thing is sitting right there and it's often forgot about. So I would like that. I feel like if most people go back and look at their product that they had that was like right there, just on the verge of winning, like they probably were neglecting a lot of that stuff, right? Every email you collect, every purchase that you have, right? Every phone number that you collect. Yeah.
I think people neglect that kind of stuff too, because they're doing a lot of things that take up a lot of their attention and energy that doesn't allow them to look at the holistic picture. like one of the main things that you should outsource right away is your customer support. Like people that get started, they make a few sales and they're like, oh, well, I have 22 emails to answer. So
they're drowning in customers. Yeah.
And not only are you not being productive with your time because you can hire someone for $5 an hour to do that, you're also getting the brunt end of the worst part about the business is complaints. And it's like, you just get in this like low energy, icky state. So you're not inspired. You're not answering customer support emails and feeling inspired, right? You got to get in that inspired state to be able to think about the things Brad's talking about. How else can I improve my offer? How can I be?
How do I plug the holes?
Like literally, I was on a drive when my store went from 0 to 2 million in 60 days. The first 5 days, like day one, it was at I think less than $1,000 in revenue. And by the fifth day, I was doing $50,000 a day in revenue. And it wasn't because I was sitting there grinding on my customer supporting this. I was literally driving and I was in a flow state, listening to music, and an idea would pop up. And I'm like, oh, wait, let's try this thing. And it was because I wasn't in the weeds on the brunt work. I was from a high level thinking about things. So getting yourself out of the weeds gives you the perspective to be able to see these different parts of the business.
I think that, at least for me, is probably one of the most like mic drop moments of this whole thing. Like, yeah, that is so true. But how do you get in that state where you can be proactive rather than reactive, right? It's finding those people to help. I love that point. Like, I did have one question. I think sometimes, something hits, right? Maybe it's fidget spinners. Maybe it's, and that's very low cost. You probably don't want to do that. But hoverboards, is it really important to be first to market on these things? Or are you just going to be better at marketing and better at, sales, et cetera, upsells, downsells?
So,
go ahead.
So from my experience, I was actually with hoverboards, I was not first to market. I ended up being like second to market. By the time we got everything set up, there was another company. There might've been two companies that kind of like started going viral before we did. And they made exponentially more money than me. But second, third to market, you're still doing very well.
Yeah, for every Uber, there's a Lyft, right?
But on the same token, you can go into a saturated product and still do very well by the way the algorithm works is you're buying ad placements, right? When you're running ads, and it's whoever's willing to pay the most for the ad to get the person to see it. So you could, like, when I was a really big dropshipper, I would lose money on products on purpose, knowing that my competition would give up and eventually my ad costs would go down. So I'd outbid them at the market. I would use manual bidding to say, hey, I'm willing to pay $100 per customer just so these other people drop out, and then I drop my bids down, right? So being first to market is huge. You can make exponentially more money if you're first to market. But most of the time you won't be. But know that you can go into, first of all, there are 3.5 billion people that have access to the internet. I don't even know, maybe it's more than that now. And there's millions and millions of products. Like, you're not saturating a market with a product unless you're making millions of dollars a day on it. So there's a lot of room. And it's hard for people to understand that because they think from their own limited perspective. They're like, oh my God, I did $50,000 in revenue. That's so much money. It's like, you could do $50 million in revenue. You could do $500 million in revenue. But your perception is that that's a lot of money. There's almost no way a product can be saturated to a point where you can't keep selling it. So there's two dynamics to it. It's the first to market's great, but you can sell anything no matter how many people are selling it.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is that whoever has the highest LTV to CAC ratio wins. Whoever's getting eyeballs the cheapest and is collecting the most wins the game, right? To Jared's point, second, third, fourth, fifth, I mean, even down to like 100th, right? In some spaces, make a ton of money, right? But whoever is spending the least and is making the most wins the game. They could also spend the most, right? And they could also eat up all of your ad budget. I like to think of it as like, your funnel, your business, it's a machine. You have to focus on the inputs and you have to focus on the outputs. Your inputs are your CAC and your outputs are your LTV. All the activities that roll up to like how cheaply can I get good eyeballs to this offer is your CAC. Those are your inputs. And all the things you can do to increase your LTV, like your email campaigns, your SMS campaigns, your retargeting campaigns, your average order value, your upsells, your downsells, your cross sells, all that stuff are the outputs. You want to drive the inputs down and drive the outputs up. Like that's really like high level how to think about it.
Yeah. Well, that's the old Dan Kennedy adage too, right? Like is he who can spend the most to acquire customer wins. Right. And I love how you talked about that too, Jared. Like even in the long run, even if I had to lose a little bit now, they're going to give up and I'm going to win. That's genius. I know you had a hard stop too, Brad. My gosh, we could continue to go on and on and on. This has been fascinating. Any final words? Like, first off, if they wanted to get involved with Zendrop and ClickFunnels, like what's the best thing for them to do? If they're already in ClickFunnels or they're already in Zendrop, what's the best way for them to get involved and actually start doing this?
Yeah, well, it's live in ClickFunnels now. So Zendrop is live in ClickFunnels now. I forget exactly where it was and don't want to, if the UI changes, I don't want to direct people in the wrong place if they're watching this a year from now. But if you go into ClickFunnels, you'll be able to find Zendrop and click on create Zendrop account. It'll take you to a page where you can create a Zendrop account in 10 seconds. You'll be in the product catalog and it's a seamless integration back and forth.
I love it.
Yeah. And I would say, if you feel a calling to do this, do it. And worst case scenario, you learn a lot through the way. And what are you waiting for? It's like just do it. Just get started. Just get going on something.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely. ClickFunnels gives them a way to spike up their AOV, right? Different upsell capabilities that are just painful elsewhere, and can't wait to see the success that this breeds and helps people get started.
Well, we appreciate you guys. This is huge for us too, because I mean, it really breaks down the walls for people to get started. And what an awesome partnership! And just look forward to what we can do in the future. I'm excited for a bunch of 2 Comma Club awards that come simply because people started dropshipping with Zendrop. That's awesome. Thanks, guys, for showing up and delivering tons of value to this audience.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. This was fun.
A lot of fun.